Hello everybody and welcome back to the Ōkami walkthrough. It's time for side quests! Yeah, there's a lot to do today, and next part, and the part after that. Because as I said, Assail City has so much going on in it, and as you can see, I am having a little bit of frustration going on here, because this is when my Wiimote was seriously giving me jip. It was driving me insane. And I was just like, no! Why are you being so awful to me? Really, what I probably should have done is kind of tried to fix things and re-record this, but you know, I'm stubborn like that, and why the hell not just show the grief that I went through? Because it's kind of funny when you think about it. It's just like, thank you, game, for freaking out at me. Normally, like, when I first played Ōkami, I had no problems whatsoever. The Wiimote behaved entirely. It was perfect. And I was just like, saw people complaining about the Wiimote implementation in the game, and I was just like, I actually never had a problem. Come to record it, and all the problems. Thankfully, it's only really at its worst here. And it really is at its worst here. It's terrible. And was driving me borderline insane. I still have no idea exactly what was causing it to freak out at me, but now I believe I'm going to be... okay, I'm not going to be a complete... oh no, I am going to be a complete div. I think you can get more money for these guys if you just go across to the merchant. I don't know why I thought it was a good idea to sell stuff to the weapons dealer, but oh well, it's not exactly like I'm losing out here. I'm not going to need that much money for a while, so yeah, it's all good. But what you're going to want to do in the Commoners Quarter is make sure that you bloom every tree possible, because that unlocks the side quest, which we are going to head into pretty much almost immediately. But whilst we are doing this, I should probably do my little art book discussion as I normally do about these places, because there's, as I said, there's quite a lot of stuff to do with the Commoners Quarter. Now, I don't know whether I mentioned this, but initially each of the houses in the city had their own unique looks, which made for a very diverse looking city. Unfortunately, due to 3D model constraints, we had to drop some of the house designs. The lead designer was also the one doing the modelling, so I'm sure that the decision did not come easily for him. Then you get the craftsman house. This was originally the home of Naguri, the carpenter. When we were made aware of the minigame The Young Wannabe Apprentice, where you guide the young man to Naguri, which is coming eventually, we decided to give Naguri a different house and made this the apprentice's house. Then you get Yama's restaurant, which we'll be visiting in this part. Even after we had finished the 3D model of Assail City, we went back in a few times to make alterations as we implemented the various minigames. Yama's restaurant is no exception. To accommodate some of the minigames, Yama's restaurant had to pick up and move repeatedly, even swapping locations with Mr. Flower's house at one point, Mr. Flower's house being the one that's sitting right in front of us, and the restaurant being that thing on the left. There's another design for Yama's restaurant. As you can see, we shaped the front of the restaurant like a cat's face. Yama himself also has a cat-like face, but for some reason his movements are reminiscent of Bruce Lee when he cooks. This wasn't particularly planned, it just sort of happened while talking with our motion guy Yamaguchi. You have Mr. Sheik's house, which is the one with the gold plates on the top. From the design, I guess you could say business is good for Mr. Sheik. Lol. Most of the minigames for the city were late additions, so usually we had to design the stage before we decided what kind of game would take place there. The minigame for Mr. Sheik's house was something I came up with while working on the game dialogue. And the time has come to talk to Mr. Flower. Oh, I'm so excited. It's a little bit about Mr. Flower's house. In contrast to the Cutter's house, Mr. Flower's home was designed with a very bright and cheerful look. I think many people had a hard time locating with the cherry tree in Mr. Flower's minigame. That was squeezed in the last minute development, and I'm sure the many frustrated screamed, "This is it!" when they eventually found it. Because, yes, we have to heal all of the trees in the Commoner's Quarter, and there is a specific timing that you have in which to return the blossoms to the place. And Mr. Flower is going to be jumping all over the place, and oh, it is frustrating, especially so when the game is not playing ball. Because he doesn't go where you expect him to. Which is just like, stop! Play ball, please! Now, the thing about Mr. Flower's design, a very happy old man with a Hawaiian outfit and a lei around his neck. His face has the looks of Japanese comedian Ichikai Kazuki, and his head reminds me of Kichomu, which is a character from an old Japanese folktale. But the important thing to note here is that Mr. Flower is most likely, in a way, based off of an old folktale character. Because his Japanese name is Hanasaki Jiji. Now, Hanasaki Jiji is the name of a Japanese fairy tale, or Hanasaki Jisan. Basically, it's from the Tales of Old Japan collection, and it's called The Story of the Old Man Who Made Withered Trees to Blossom. Basically, what happens is an old childless couple loved their dog. One day it dug in the garden, and then they found a box of gold pieces there. A neighbour thought the dog must be able to find treasure, and managed to borrow the dog. When it dug in his garden, there were only bones, and he killed it. He told the couple that the dog had just dropped dead. They grieved and buried it under the fig tree where they'd found the treasure. One night, the dog's master dreamed that the dog taught him to chop down the tree and make a mortar from it. He told his wife, who said they must do as the dog asked. When they did, the rice put into the mortar turned into gold. The neighbour borrowed it, but the rice turned into foul-smelling berries, and he and his wife smashed and burned the mortar. That night, in a dream, the dog told his master to take the ashes and sprinkle them on certain cherry trees. When he did, the cherry trees came into bloom, and the daimyo, a feudal landlord, passing by, marvelled and gave him many gifts. The neighbour tried to do the same, but the ashes blew into the daimyo's eyes, so he threw him into prison, and when he was let out, his village would not let him live there anymore. He could not, with his wicked ways, find a new home. And that's basically where Mr. Flower comes from. Which is amazing. Now, I'm really surprised that I actually managed to do that in one run, because I know the first time that I played the game, I struggled so much. Like, it's hard, it really is. But it's worth your while, because the sheer amount of praise you get from blooming all those trees and kind of completing the task is insane. What's also quite fun is that he mentions that he learned the Gura shuffle from a certain flower dance master, which may actually be Mr. Orange, which is great. It was also initially called Mr. Blossom, but that was later replaced for Flower, and I think that's probably a bit better of a title. And here we have Yama, who is a chef. His Japanese name is Yamaneko, which means wild cat. So the Neko is the cat, the Yama is the wild, I would have assumed. His English name is apparently Japanese for mountain, as well. And is also the kanji which is shown on his apron. So I don't quite know why they went with mountain, but okay. Now, oh my good grief. So, Yama and his restaurant, along with another character, are based on a folktale, which is called The Restaurant of Many Orders. Now, basically, I found actually an actual translation of it, which is glorious. I think I'll have to make use of that at some point. But I think basically what happens is two arrogant hunters from the city find themselves in a world where fantasy and reality merge when they enter the Wild Eat House restaurant, and they learn a particular lesson. Oh, wildcats. Ah. So, they get caught in a wordy trap, lose their way in a frightening forest, find restaurant Wildcat House, they find many strange notes, and then... oh, they realise that they were the ones who were going to be cooked. They try to run out the room, but the doors won't open, and... yeah, while they do get saved, I think in the end, they are terrified. And never return to normal, because that's always wonderful. But what we just learned there is Inferno. Basically, it allows us to use fire whenever we want to. All you have to do is draw the infinity symbol. Now, considering the amount of grief that I was having from my Wiimote, I am absolutely gobsmacked to manage to get that to actually work first time round. But I did, and I'm very happy with that. Now, if you don't have access to just using Fireburst and drawing a line from fire to an enemy, that is your method of getting your floral finishes in. It's a bit difficult to pull off because the Fireburst will not always appear where you want it to. The placing's a little bit iffy, but oh well. Now if you head into this place at night, then there is a guy who is going to give us a monster list, which we're going to pick up now and complete in a little while before catching it back up again. But also we find out that this guy's lost a chrysanthemum hairpin, which is kind of sad, but oh well. We'll manage to sort that out eventually, I hope. So Masu here is the guy that I was talking about who has the monster manifest. His name is apparently based on the Edo period Japanese naturalist Sugai Masumi. If you... I don't know whether this happens here or whether he's just walking about, but if Ami headbutts Masu, he will attempt to attack her with a dashing slash, signified by his stance. His right hand on the katana's handle. The attack itself won't do any damage nor cost godhood, and can be easily evaded, but should it connect, Ami will be stunned for a brief moment. The way that Masu wields his katana suggests that he uses the Yado, or Yaido, martial art in combat. He's also one of the very few characters in the entire Ōkami series to have his name in the original Japanese written in kanji, much like Himiko. Which is odd because it means that he bears some sort of cultural relevance or importance, but it isn't actually really that much of the case. Particularly because it doesn't have... well, the main characters who are based on real-life mythology themselves don't necessarily have huge cultural relevance or importance. Some of them all do, but not all of them. Now, I don't quite know what I'm trying to do here. I think I'm trying to light the brazier, because I think you get something for doing it. I'm not 100% sure. I believe essentially what you need to do is get the fire going to where a guard is, because that will unlock a minigame, which is related to the chrysanthemum hairpin that was mentioned. Now I was thinking, oh, I can light this up right now, and I don't think you can. For some reason I thought you could, but no. Also, I am failing miserably at drawing Inferno. Got it in there, but, yeah, didn't do anything. Basically what I believe my guide was telling me to do is use just Fireburst to draw from that smaller brazier to kind of then get that around, but yeah. I was being a bit of a div at this moment in time. The thing is that you naturally think, oh, but I should be able to light this on fire. But no, the game doesn't let you do it. Which was just like, no! Why you be mean to me? Especially when I'm having such grief from trying to deal with this bloody Wiimote. And for some reason it doesn't even, you know, light up at night. Basically you just need to do that to get it going, rather than attempting to use Inferno and be fancy like I was. And I really was trying to be fancy, there's absolutely no need. Because obviously the simple technique worked out in the end, but oh, it's embarrassing. Now, I believe we've only got one last thing that we're going to do in this particular part. And that is head to a little thing in the sky. And seeing as we're not going to have a whole lot of time then to deal with this, I will discuss it now. So, you can't quite see it from here, but up in the sky, which is where we're heading, there is a little estate. It's basically the Tau Troop headquarters. Although that's not exactly what it's called in the art book. It's actually Wakka's estate. So this is where Wakka lives. So in terms of the design, some people may find the exterior design a little familiar. At first Wakka had a different name and was actually designed as a Westerner, though that has nothing to do with why he talks funny. That initial concept is why you might find some Western flavourings in the estate. More so inside than out, I would have thought. The Western architecture that we will eventually see in this place is unusual in the Ōkami world, and the artist remembers having lots of fun designing it. There are some suspiciously futuristic displays on a constant stream of information at the back regarding particular characters, Orochi, and something that we haven't actually met yet, which suggests that Wakka's been studying a little bit. Also, though the Tau Troop is led by Wakka, they originally had a separate building prepared for them, and the artist thinks that many people will figure out where we got the name Tau Troop from when they see the drawing that's in the art book. They even had a parking spot for an ox-drawn carriage, though they had no idea what they might use it for in-game. I'm not quite sure what the reference is to, but oh well. So we've got Kamo here, I don't quite know what he's referencing, but do want to talk about Abe, or Abe, who we're going to see in a minute. I mean, this guy's mentioning about Captain Wakka, because Wakka is the captain of this place. But Abe, his name comes, well, most likely comes from the Abe clan, which is one of the oldest Japanese clans. They're thought to be one of the original clans of the Yamato people. Another less likely possibility is the shortened version of Abraham. But, don't know. Then given his design, which we will see in a second, it is likely that he's named after Abe no Seimei, the most famous of Japan's onmyoji. So, an onmyoji is a specialist in onmyodo, which is traditional Japanese esoteric cosmology, which is a mixture of natural science and occultism, so there's magic and all sorts. Now, I wonder if I can spot Kamo... Oh, so Kamo is also based on one, which is Kamo no Yasunori, who is also a famous Onmyodo practitioner. Now, the symbol seen on Abe and Keimo's headgears is a pentagram, Gobosei, that represents the Japanese 5 fundamental elements, Godai, so earth, water, fire, air, and void. The pentagram is also closely associated to Onmyodo, so that whole thing. Now, there is a slight spoiler in the Tau Troopers' headquarters, and you will be able to spot it, because I am going to run up to the thing that's going to spoil it. But you don't know what it is, so, yes, but we can see Blight there, we can see the Spider Queen, and we can see a little something that we haven't come across yet. Of course, we see Orochi there, so something important's coming, but I think we should try and do some more stuff around Seian City, don't you?